Are you content?
Quite content. And you?
Quite content.
Are you content? It's a question that we can all outwardly pretend to be, whilst the words themselves, especially in this film, start losing their weight the further along we go. With blank slates of sorts, we are diving into a landscape that holds the bare minimum, the people included. But would you want to escape your troubled past, those haunting emotions, for some sort of instant tranquility? Is the price worth it to be content? Let's have a look. This is 2 takes. This is 1 shot. Analysis of the film, Turn Me On. An introduction into this drab world of pleasantness has Joy waking up to the question, are you content? Strange question to ask someone as they wake, but we all take it with a grain of salt. And then we realise it becomes more and more frequent throughout the day. It's used as a greeting, as a goodbye, as an introduction, and even as a genuine probing question to see if you are actually content, without really listening to the answer. This goes further into their devices, a mandatory type question that perhaps might even keep people in check. And then we realise that it does just this. Like equilibrium with contacting the authorities on someone if they show emotions, Turn Me On has the same sort of recipe, but dulled down with a lack of taste or even justice. The use of language can go further throughout the film. It piques my interest as it's so devoid of anything. Cohort for friends, partner instead of boyfriend, remove instead of move them elsewhere, are you content instead of how are you? The language is a direction rather than a choice, much like the vitamin giving you a drama-free pleasantness, another word to mask the void of nothing that people hide behind. But not because they have to, but because they simply do, as they cannot remember anything else. The characters in this strange environment have simply just accepted these rules and ways of doing things because they seem to have lost their sense of self. When Joy and William reflect on what they remember beforehand, they come up blank. Now, I don't know about you, but for a vitamin that's supposed to simply take away emotions, why would it abrupt the brain that way? Perhaps because emotions are linked to a memory. It's probably easier to erase the unpleasantness alongside the memory, so not to cause any confusion. It's better than perhaps the memory being there without the emotions to go along with it. Much like in the film I Think We're Alone Now, where the emotions have gone, but the memories have remained, ultimately leaving the mind being in a state of repression for things that you wish to forget, but still remember. But even so, the characters seem accepting of this reality, of not being able to remember, as they have a lot more discovery to perhaps contend with. But within this drab contentedness, there is this resignation, and perhaps even selfishness, that has one not really caring about anyone else, let alone themselves. They go and do things because it's going through the motions. We can understand the drabness of it all, the clothing, the landscape, the conversations or lack thereof, people on the vitamin, or vitamin, are empty shells. But it can actually go further than what we realise. We understand that they drink smoothies with boring covers. We find advertisements outside being the simplest design with the assertiveness in its message of how our friends and the vitamin are the best. It reminds me of the advertisements in They Live, were words that eclipse the real message underneath, hence the blandness of it, repetition of the vitamin saying, becoming like a mantra in everyone's heads. We understand that their minds are foggy with a lack of fire or need, but have you ever thought about their 5 senses? They only have smoothies, it seems. They wear the same sort of clothes as everyone else, regardless of the weather and their temperature, and their homes use the same tones and shades as everyone else's because it's simpler and easier, regardless of preference. Then I'll skip to Joy and William not taking the pill. William expresses distaste for the smoothie, whilst Joy questions the smells of burning and listening to the Welcome Centre tape above her office. These never come up before with the vitamin. So the real question here is, does the vitamin remove the senses too? They perhaps couldn't taste the smoothie, or Joy couldn't smell the burning beforehand, because they were clouded, like her mind.
Sorry, I found that doing that occasionally helps.
We find a person at the beginning of the film watching the advertisement for the vitamin and way of life, to which he puts everything that has upset him in a metal box for it to be incinerated. which we can understand and have seen in films like Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind and the erasing of someone from their mind. But the worrying factor is that he put everything in there, even his wallet. His sense of identity is now gone, and then we find him later being introduced as Frank. And so, in this way of living, in this landscape with everything stripped away, Frank was who we are introduced to, but do not follow. We see his desperation to not feel what he is feeling, and at times like that, we all wish for it to disappear. And it did, along with the memories, and the irony lies with the fact that the box we see Frank put all his things in are the very same boxes that Joy deposits and manages as waste. And thus, when people like Frank surrender themselves over to not feel anymore, they do more than they realise. It's interesting because we are shown how to get into the program and what to do, but how can one get out of it? The conversation that Joy has with one of the friends suggests that there isn't an alternative. You will simply be placed elsewhere, back on the vitamin, back to where you started, living and working for our friends, taking their vitamin and ignoring the ominous signs around you. Turn Me On, an interesting title, might sound like something out of a 50 Shades of Grey-esque box, with the risky business of sex becoming all-consuming, but surprisingly, and almost with a comedic twist, Turn Me On uses this dynamic as a learning method, with the characters calling it sinking. When they don't take their vitamin, they become honest and verbally expressive of what they are feeling, like young children who do not have a filter and feel no need for it. There is no aspect of politeness, just interaction, discovery, play, and acceptance. Like the pill, the vitamin from our friends that is always advertised throughout the streets, like the TV that only shows visuals that go with a frequency that might connect towards meditation, like the messages on their devices that ask them if they want a new partner, a baby, or even a vacation day with only one option. It's a strange way to live. But what would you do if your mind is not really yours anymore? With your senses, and perhaps even sense of judgment, diminished because there is no sense of alarm or danger. Hence, the characters expressing themselves like teenagers. Hence why Joy talks to the friend at the end, asking about her options, and then making up her mind on how she feels, not by the choices governed and given to her. There is this ominous acceptance of this reality, where there are underlining hidden depths as to why things are the way things are. They say they are our friends, but who are they really? Also, what happened to the rest of the world for it to be hidden from everyone's sight? This is what fascinates me the longer I watched, and still now, even though the main plot was essentially a romance with a sliver of sci-fi, I find myself questioning it all still. Turn Me On sounds like it's a movie about the pleasures of reaction and discovery, and you would be right. From not taking the pill one day to the next, until it becomes a norm, we follow Joy and William as they explore and experience things what seems like the first time. They have conversations about trying to remember what happened after coming to the wellness centre, and we, including us in the audience, are left with a blank. The vitamin from our friends, an ominous dictatorship program, has its residents living off of smoothies, bland colour wardrobes, jobs that sound impressive but really are not, and the vitamin taken once a day. We could connect this reality like the one in Equilibrium, with less of a political scheme and more about the fact that Joy and William simply want to break free. It's not about winning against government, it's about discovering. Even when Joy becomes a friend and finds new source material about her world, even that information seems to be chosen from a certain era, leaving us baffled as to what they are truly hiding. But this isn't the message of the film. We follow Joy's journey, and her journey is like a teenager finally finding herself and learning about her body and what's around her. She takes a pause to watch the sea whilst the rest go inside. She looks out the windows, listening to TV broadcasts not meant for her, whilst battling how she really feels about everything. We could see this film potentially showing the darker side of our friends, but we don't. We just find Joy and William finally being content on the other side of the fence. Turn Me On is about literally turning the light bulb on in someone's head, away from repression and closer to the truth of oneself. So, I ask you, are you content? What are your thoughts on what was discussed in this episode? Comment and let me know to open up a conversation. Like and subscribe for more content of this nature, and come talk to me on Twitter or Instagram. Better yet, Support the show on my Patreon to help a creator such as myself with learning on the go. Each like, each comment, each subscriber fuels the motivation I need to make better and better content for yours truly. Come say hi, and thanks for watching.